Now, how does that bring about? How do we then take that into something useful that we can start to learn? So what I want to do is teach you a little framework based on what I've learnt from that story, and just to start applying it, because I can give you the remedies. I can give you all the information to get rid of a cold, but unless you've got a strong foundation to begin with, then it's still not going to be that effective. So I want to present you with options, new and exciting options that just make you think about, okay, how can I do this better? How can I live a better lifestyle? How can I feel better most of the time? And as a result, how can I avoid getting diseases, things like colds and flus, which knock you down for 10 days. Nobody wants to be miserable with cold and flu. All I'm saying is that you do have a choice. And so now I'm going to present you with a choice. So I'm going to teach you this framework, this idea first, and then I'm going to show you some remedies. But I want to invite you to stick with me and listen here, because it's really important. So let's just firstly have a look. Normally I would focus a lot more on the solution, but I think it's important to highlight the problem that we're currently under, the problem that we currently have with lifestyle, because we've got to make some changes, okay? And if you don't understand why it's a problem, then you won't necessarily take the actions to move towards what the solution is. So let's just say right now we have several different factors that are important in our lifestyle. We have that make up a good lifestyle or a bad lifestyle, or make us feel energetic, or make us feel a bit low and depressed, or make us feel happy, or make us feel sad. Okay? So generally, the problem is that we have a huge amount, especially now, which is probably the biggest one, is we have a huge number of emotional stresses in our environment. So that might be things like we're working overtime, we are running families, and we've got to look after our kids and make sure that they're looked after and they come first and they're loved. We've got relationships with family members, with friends, and if they are in turmoil, then that's going to cause an emotional stress of some kind. Then we've got physical factors. So physical factors, physical depleting factors could be something like nutrition, our diet, how we're eating. It could be that we're not exercising at all. It could be that we're exercising too much. It could be that we experience some kind of physical rupture, so we have a car crash or something like that. Or then we've got environmental stresses. So they're things like the environmental toxins. We could live in a city where the air quality is bad. We could live near a farm that's squirting loads of pesticides. We could be eating fruits and vegetables which are covered in pesticides. So all of those are environmental stresses. Now, the challenge is that what we have is we have all these stresses coming to us, and we're dealing with all these things. And so what we need to do essentially is that if we're living in a high stress environment based on the things that I've shown you here, then we lower our resistance to any kind of disease or cold or whatever it might be. So we've got to make better choices. Now this might seem awfully simplistic, and bear with me here. I know, I'm kind of, it does seem like, oh yeah, this is common sense, Ben. That's true, but is it common practice? Are you doing these things every day? So are you aware of these things? Because I think attention and awareness is everything. So we've got to be attentively aware about all of these different elements. Now, the problem is that when we have a high stress, so let me use food as an example, just because that's something I'm passionate about, and it's a prime example. So if we're having a high fat, deep fried food in our diet, then what's going to happen is we're taking that in, and it's going to basically go into our stomach, and then it's going to cause a stress on our stomach. And that food, that deep fried, say, fish and chips, as an example, is going to go into our mouth and into our body, and it's going to need to be broken down in order for us to get the nutrition from the food. Now the problem is that what happens is that our digestion is having to work harder. It's having to use a more higher level of energy to break that food down than it's actually getting from the food. So does that make sense? So it just means that we have a high level of energy required to break this food down and low output. So it just means that we become, over a period of time of doing that on a continuous basis, we start to experience this thing called innervation. And innervation is basically a lowered nerve resistance. So it just means that we're consuming things all day long that are not giving us the energy output. So what we experience is a very low energy world. So we need to get more high energy things into us. So the input is high energy and the process requires low energy. So the output is high energy. Okay? So very simplistic, but I just want to give you that idea. Now the problem is that when we live a lifestyle that's like that, what's happening is that we start to, the number one thing that shuts down, the first thing that shuts down when we reach a level of innervation, so it means we've lowered nerve energy, as I explained before, what happens is our pathways of elimination shut down. So that means our breathing, so lungs, our ability to get rid of toxins through our lungs lowers. It means that our skin, which is another eliminatory organ, starts to stop. It shuts down. It can't get rid of toxins as efficiently as it would do normally. And it also means that our bowels and our bladder stop working as effectively. So all of these organ systems, all of these pathways of elimination shut down and they stop working. So what that means is we start to build up higher levels of toxicity, of toxins. Toxins are very high on our body, but we've got no way of getting rid of them. So all we're doing is we're consistently consuming, but we're not able to eliminate. So it just means that and then what happens is that we get, and that's hence why disease manifests. And if you look at disease, and you look at all types of disease, you'll see that they have all the same symptoms. And so what they have is throwing up, which is using one elimination pathway, which is the throat, how we throw up. That's a way of eliminating toxins. If we get the flu, we sweat. So the high level of toxins gets to a threshold, so we start to sweat. Our skin starts to eliminate toxins. We might get diarrhea, so the bowels start to eliminate. So all of these ways are just ways, so any kind of disease that we get, if you look at all the symptoms in every single disease, that you'll see that each disease is using one of the pathways of elimination, which is essentially eliminating the toxins. So when we get to threshold, our body says, right, get this out. So it does its best to do it in a short space of time, which might mean something extremely unpleasant for you as a person, like cold and flu, for example. So that's the basis, that's the structure I want to create here. That's the idea I want to create. I want to operate from that frame of reference so you understand. So in that case, all we've got to do is look at creating better emotional situations. So avoiding emotional stress or dealing with emotional stress, so that in a way that it becomes strong, so you become stronger as a person. That doesn't necessarily mean running away from it. It might do in the instant, but running away isn't necessarily dealing with it. But physical could be, so eating higher quality foods, doing better quality exercise, and that doesn't necessarily mean doing strenuous exercise. It just means doing exercise that is quite relaxed. It could be doing that. If you're an exercise fiend like I am, sometimes that means actually just backing off and just saying I'm going to go for a light jog or a walk or something like that, because you're getting oxygen in the body. Environmental, it could be actually, what I'm deciding to do now is move out of a city. What I'm deciding to do now is buy organic vegetables. What I'm deciding to do now, whatever it is for you, but just making better choices in each of those areas. So now I've presented with you like a framework for lifestyle and making some choices. I want to invite you to say, right, okay, I might have a cold and flu right now, but based on what I've learnt from Ben, I'm going to make two small changes tomorrow. So what I invite you to do is to just take two things, maybe an idea that you've got in one of these areas that you can improve, and you can create a higher level of resistance where you can create a better lifestyle for yourself. That could be organic vegetables. It could be just going on a bit of an exercise frame, just like light exercise. It could be having a conversation with a family member and clearing something up. It could be whatever it is. So I invite you to do is choose, or ideally not two, let's just choose one from each area: environmental, physical, emotional. So choose one thing to improve and say, right, what can I improve in my emotional life to reduce the level of stress that I have? What can I do to improve my environmental stresses by making one decision to change to improve upon my environmental stresses? What can I do to improve on my physical stress? What can I do to improve my physical ability and reduce the amount of stress that I have in my physical world? Okay, so that's it for framework. So now I'm going to talk to you about remedies.